Really does not make sense for them just to keep delaying. And I also think the other thing is that the collision has to matter. So it makes sense to announce a bunch of matches. And I also will say that for a lot of people who are praising WWE, there's a lot of things to praise. But one thing is I looked up their match card. They only have two matches: John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Io Sky versus Stephanie Vakir. We all know about the Seth Rollins and the Seth Rollins Charlotte Flair, CM Punk AJ Lee match. That's cool and stuff. But it's still like with AEW, they both have issues as companies with announcing a bunch of matches. Bound for Glory, there's only Trick Williams. I think there's like 3 matches announced really, but they announced there's like 6 matches announced. So the first match that they added was MJF versus Mark Briscoe, and Mark Briscoe is allowed to do any type of stipulation that he wants. So it's a little stupid in a way because MJF just cost Mark Briscoe a chance at the TNT Championship. So I do kind of wonder, why would you do that where you're like, okay, well, I screwed you over, now I'm challenging you to a match, really? So, I mean, I know it's one of those things, too, where it's like we're so entertained by Mark Briscoe and his Kid Rock Slim Shady voice, and MJF has great matches, really. So it's kind of like, it's like I want to see it, but it's not set up correctly. You can do something where maybe, MJF is just being an a-hole to everybody, really, and then Tony Khan says, you know what, Max, you've been an a-hole to so many people. This is what I'm going to do to punish you. There's better ways to get that match across than just, oh, well, I screwed you over, now you can do whatever you want to me, or you can have MJF versus, a wrestler from CMLL, have Mark Briscoe cost him, and then say, now we're both pissed at each other, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm at my limit with you, and we're going to do it this way. I'm going to give you what you want, and I know I can beat you because you're just beneath me. Like, there's just ways to just set that up. The next match is that they announced is Kyle Fletcher versus Hangman Adam Page for the AEW Championship. So there's a couple of problems with this. That, first of all, you're going to have another double champion, and double champions are not good unless you do something like somebody gains a title and then they give up their title. Like, he gains the AEW Championship, he gives up the TNT Championship. The next thing is that I can be okay with a tag team champion, and I can be okay with a tag team champion, and someone being a heavyweight and a tag team champion like Bandito or John Cena or MJF when he was the ROH champion. Like, that's okay. But, you don't want to turn into Mercedes Moné where you have, so many titles, and you have like so many like freaking titles, really, and then it's like, how do you defend it? How do you represent 9 different companies? Or even if you have like 2 titles, like the heavyweight and the Intercontinental, or the heavyweight and the TNT, or whatever. How do you do that? Or look what they did to Cody Rhodes. They anonymously retired the Universal Championship because they didn't want John Cena to be like, okay, now he's a double champion. Now he's 18 times. So now it's a transfer of 2 belts instead of 1 belt. So it gets convoluted, really. And then also you got to ask yourself, is Kyle Fletcher really going to win because he's already holding a championship? So that's not really good. And they also didn't really have a lot of motivations for Kyle Fletcher to get it. Like I said, the number one person should have been, it should have been Okada. It should have been Okada, number one. And the reason why it should have been Okada is that he's a unified champion. He is a heel. And he's smug, he's arrogant. I don't remember Okada versus Hangman. So I would say that I don't agree with this match. But the only redeeming quality, and I'll say that it does more good than bad, is that it puts Kyle Fletcher in a heavyweight championship spot. He needs that. He needs that promotion, really. So, and it's like what I said, the weakness of AEW is that they don't build new stars that well. So, again, this could have been Ricky Starks. This could have been Anthony Bowens if he was built up right. This could have been Mark Briscoe a year ago. They're not having people like Orange Cassidy, Jack Perry, Evil Uno, and a couple MXM or other people defending that, going after the heavyweight title. So this is the right young talent. This is the right new guy to get a shot really. So I give them credit for that. They also have a fatal four-way for the women's championship. I'm not happy with that because it would have been better if they had a women's blood and guts match. And you already have Chris Statlander, you have Tekla, which is a good choice, and you have another person as well, really. But the good news is that you have Tekla because I want new people because you can't just have the same old. So like you could do something where she loses the title, really, and then that's good. Where she loses the title, and then you have Tekla versus Tony Storm, and it will be good because Tekla is supposed to be this outlaw, breaks the rules, cannot be controlled backstage type of person, really. So there's stuff that you can do with Tekla to put it in a new direction. And they're teasing Big Bill versus Eddie Kingston. That's a bad match because even though it's not announced really, what do they have to do with each other? It makes a lot of sense to do Big Bill versus Chris Jericho. And then maybe you do Anthony Bowens versus Eddie Kingston if you want to do that. But that makes no sense. I would rather see Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston. Or Eddie Kingston's like, dude, you lost your way, really. And I'm going to go through anybody to, save you. So that does not make any sense, really. But that's kind of like a tease of a match. The other thing is that they're teasing Konosuke Takeshita versus Okada. That's going to be a really great your Dave Meltzer match. But there are a couple of issues with this that, like I said, I would have saved this match for Wrestle Dream. You do Okada versus Hangman, Takeshita versus Okada, and then Takeshita versus Okada in a steel cage or in a hardcore stipulation, or in a 2 out of 3 falls match at Full Gear. Like, do what they do in WWE. Like how was Hangman, how was Drew McIntyre and CM Punk over a stretch of a couple of shows, really. That's the way to do it. But I understand, they're missing top baby faces. They're trying to push. They're putting Takeshita in that role, and I think it's time for him to do that. So again, pushing your right young talent, really. And they also announced Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley in the Coffin match. So I'm okay with that because I really, really think that you have your obligatory, these guys are in that spot, but they're not in the main event, and they can't be in the main event every single time with a hardcore stipulation. It's repetitive. They had the Texas Death Match, Moxley Hardcore. They also had Jon Moxley, and they had like the Lights Out match, which main evented, and now they're doing like a Coffin match, and that's not going to main event, really, So I'm okay with this. They also announced this, and this was the right choice. It has nothing to do with pay-per-views, but Bryan Danielson is now a permanent announcer, and that needed to happen. Like, he has a really good voice. He's very analytical. He's very charismatic. They need to get Adam Cole, baby, on that, and then they're good, really. But as I said, this needs to be a show of building your next generation. This needs to be a show of saying, hey, even though WWE has something, we need to take all of our charismatic people who have not been pushed to the top and start promoting them to the next level. Mark Briscoe, Kyle Fletcher, Big Bill. If they do Big Bill versus Eddie Kingston and bring Eddie Kingston back, they both can do well. And Takeshita, Okada, raise up Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, in a heavyweight spot, really. And that's what I've said with AEW. The way to beat WWE is to steal what they're doing. Picasso famously said, "A great artist steal, good artist borrow," and steal what they're doing, which is build your next stars. Learn from what you did last year. You don't build people like Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, Dark Order, Satnam Singh, Jeff Jarrett, Private Party. You need to build the guys who can talk and have some fire and have something going from them, Or you look at a division like the women's division where they can afford bringing up a lot of new people, really. So they are going in a good direction and in the direction of building people. So I'm looking forward to All Out, but it's definitely as I said, I definitely say, like, the long-term game is to build new stars and build stories. And I know they're in a bit of a rush mode, and that's not good. That's never good. And I take points away from that, but they're doing what they need to do, build the next generation. So that's how I feel about the AEW All Out match card. I know there's gonna be like 5 or 6 more matches added to this.